My name is Lois and I'm originally from Canada, but I married my husband Francis in Canada, and he's English, and we came back and we lived in Grimsby for a year before we came to London. And we actually moved to Palmer's Green in 1970, bought our 5-bedroom house, which we still live in. And so I've been here so many years. This is really home now. Can't think of being anywhere else.
That's lovely. Could you tell me about when you first went to the baby clinic, mother and baby clinic in Broomfield House?
Yes, my daughter Tanya was born in 1973, and so that's when I first started going to the baby clinic. And as you know, Broomfield House was beautiful then, and I do remember her looking at the pictures on the ceiling as a young baby, and it was just quite a lovely place to be. And I don't remember actually meeting mums there so much. To me it was a bit traumatic. The first couple of times I took her, I thought, she's the one who's going to wee in the scales. She's the one who's going to scream, let's get out of here as fast as possible. So it wasn't actually immediately after she was born that I really started to meet people. I think it was a little bit later.
I think a lot of mums, I know I was, quite punch drunk after a baby. You just sort of getting through each day, really,
exactly.
rather than thinking about anything else.
Yes.
Did you meet people, were you introduced by your health visitor, or did you sit next to people when Tanya was about 6 months old at the clinic, or how did you meet people?
I think the very first person I met, whose name was Pat, had a son, on the same day as Tanya was born, and we used to see each other going to the clinic, sometimes see each other there. But I always figured that she was very self-contained because she had grown up in the area. Her parents still lived nearby. Her husband's parents lived nearby, so she seemed totally sorted. And so I thought, she seems nice, but she hasn't got time to be my friend. And so although I saw Pat, it wasn't until a little later when I started to meet people who hadn't grown up in this area, in fact, from thousands of miles away, some of them. Certainly none of the people in this small group that got together are Londoners. And to me that is possibly one of the reasons why we sort of gelled, because we didn't have family to turn to. We started to rely on each other.
That's absolutely a crucial point, isn't it? I hadn't really even thought of that, but everybody, Tina moved into the area about a month before the baby was born, and so people didn't have parents locally, did they?
No, none of us did.
So you all needed a group to rely on.
Yes.
So where did you start meeting each other?
I think probably for the most part we met in each other's houses, one or two at a time to begin with, and then as a group, as and when people were around. Some obviously did go back to work much sooner than others. I didn't. I stayed home and started my own business after my son was about 3 or 4. But then we started to, as the children got a bit older, find places we could take them. And I'm sure this has come up before, but we found all the toddlers groups in Palmer's Green, the Red Cross Hall, which was always dusty and dirty, and the Baptist Church Hall, and I think we went to the Methodist Church Hall as well. And then obviously when they were a bit older, they went to playgroup at Burford Church Hall, a lot of them anyway. So we did meet in places like that, but mostly I think it was in each other's houses, come for a cup of tea and a chat, whatever, because obviously there wasn't Starbucks, there wasn't places to go to, and even if there had been, we probably couldn't have afforded to do that very often.
So did you sort of talk to each other and say, well, we're going to go to the Red Cross play group on Thursday, or for instance, as many of you would go there on that day as possible, so you would see each other, do you think, or was it just by accident?
I think to start with, probably one of us would discover some new place to go and let the others know, and then whoever could come would go. And then obviously it became that would be a regular thing to do on a certain day of the week, I suppose. And then on other days we might just meet up in each other's homes. And then there would be a few days, I know, when I didn't see anybody, or we'd just meet people out shopping or whatever.
Did your children become friends?
Yes, certainly. I mean, I was looking at some pictures not long ago of my daughter Tanya when she was preschool age, and she was surrounded by little boys because all of these people had boys. And she was the only little girl in the group. And I used to get a little bit concerned about her, thinking, are they ganging up on my little girl? And many, many years later, Sue's son Simon said to me, you know, Tanya, she used to boss us around. So I didn't know that at the time. But yes, they were friends. And, you know, obviously they branched out and made other friends as they went to school. But, you know, for some of them, I'm sure there's still friendships there.
Oh, that's good. What happened when the children went to school? How did you keep meeting each other?
I suppose we probably lost a bit of that close contact. Some of us still saw each other for various reasons, like I was in a women's group and some of the women were also involved in that. And the children's book group, I started a children's book group which continued after they were at school as well. It entailed meetings for the mothers, but it also entailed a lot of children's activities. We used to take them out to anything that we could relate to books in some way or the other. We also had authors come to visit, I think, a couple of times, and we had storytellings in each other's houses. We also had the woman around the children's bookshop in Muswell Hill would come to sell books. And so it seemed to be a way of focusing on books but using it to actually introduce the children to different activities as well.
That sounds fantastic. How many children were involved?
There were probably, I would say, about 15, 16 mothers, and their various children. Yes.
Were most of these mothers those that you'd met through the playgroup time and the...
Some of them were, but then it got extended out. Obviously, some of us had second children, so that introduced a whole new group of mothers, and I think probably there were a lot of those ones involved as well.
Well, that sounds good. And you spoke about the children's workshop as well.
Yes, Sue had the idea to start a children's workshop on a Saturday morning, and initially she ran it with help from everyone involved in Hazelwood School, and then I believe it moved to the Baptist Church Hall for some time, and I can't remember the age groups then, but it was for children, young school-age children upwards, although there were some younger siblings also came. And it was just activities again that we felt that would be interesting for the children. Yeah.
That's so lovely. Now, when the babies were young, the children were young, you met quite often, probably 2 or 3 times a week.
Yes.
And then obviously things tailed off.
Yes.
So when do you think you began to meet more regularly again?
Not until fairly recently, actually. I think once the teachers in the group, which seemed to be the most in the group, I'm not a teacher, but most of them seem to be teachers, started to retire early, as teachers seem to, then I think we began to see each other around more often. And also it was probably a time when responsibilities possibly for aging parents as well as work commitments were starting to get less. So we did all have more time, and we just started having our Monday club.
Oh, that's great, isn't it? So it's a similar thing really to when the children were very small.
Yes, it is, yes. It's just a different phase in our life now, I think, and I think it's lovely that we're still together as a group, even though we had periods when we really didn't see each other all that much.
That's great. Thank you very much, Lois.